They laughed longer than the fire lasted. It wasn't even an expensive gift. Just something thoughtful. Something chosen carefully because I still believed effort translated into belonging. My nephew didn't hesitate. He lit the corner with theatrical confidence, like he was performing. The adults didn't stop him. Someone actually clapped. "Maybe now you'll finally do something useful," he said. I remember the smell more than the flames. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I picked up my coat when my sister told me I was being dramatic for looking upset. My brother-in-law opened the door and held it there, polite as ever, like I was a delivery mistake being returned. The house felt smaller as I stepped out. I'd always noticed that. I drove without music. I told myself it was just a bad night. Families have bad nights. The text came 2 hours later. "You're cut off." It was sent in the group chat. No names attached, just the collective voice. Cut off from holidays. Cut off from support. Cut off from a house I apparently had no place in. I read it 3 times. Cut off. It was such a confident phrase. On my kitchen counter sat a file I hadn't opened in years. I hadn't needed to. When they were going through foreclosure 6 years ago, I stepped in quietly. I purchased the property outright under my name to stop the bank from taking it. We agreed it was temporary. For tax reasons. We told everyone. They would refinance when things stabilized. They never did. I never pushed. I think a part of me believed that being useful was the same thing as being valued. I opened the file and reread the deed. My name alone, mortgage satisfied. Property tax receipts in my email. They had been living inside a story they preferred. I typed a dozen responses and erased them. Anger would turn me into what they already thought I was: petty, insecure, grasping for relevance. So I kept it simple. Good luck. Now check who really owns the house you're currently living in. I put my phone face down. Silence lasted 23 minutes. Then my sister called. Her voice was tight in a way I'd never heard before. Not loud. Not accusatory. Just uncertain. "What are you talking about?" I told her to pull the county records online. I waited. I could hear her breathing change as she read. There was no shouting, just a pause heavy enough to bend the air. "You never said?" "I didn't need to," I replied. That was the first time I felt the shift. Not triumph, not satisfaction. Just gravity returning to its proper direction. The next day her husband called. His tone was different from the door, holding politeness of the night before, controlled. Strategic. "We should meet," he said. We did, not at their house. At an attorney's office downtown. Neutral ground, fluorescent lights and a glass table that reflected everyone's posture. Their lawyer confirmed what they already knew. The deed was clean. The ownership indisputable. Authority entered the room not as a person, but as paperwork. For the first time in years, no one interrupted me. I explained that I had no interest in humiliating them. I had no desire to throw anyone out. But if I was going to be treated like a disposable failure, I would not continue subsidizing the narrative. The options were straightforward. They could begin paying rent under a formal lease agreement at a fair market rate adjusted below average, or I would list the house for sale within 60 days. No raised voices, no threats. Just terms. My nephew didn't come to the meeting. My sister kept looking at me like she was trying to reconcile 2 versions of me. The quiet one she'd always dismissed and the one sitting across from her now, calm and unmovable. "We didn't think," she started. "I know," I said, "that was the problem." They signed the lease 2 weeks later. The group chat has been silent since. I haven't been invited back. I haven't asked to be. Last weekend I drove by the house. The lights were on in the living room. Curtains drawn. It looked exactly the same from the outside, but something fundamental had shifted. They don't laugh when I visit the lawyer's office anymore. I still don't feel victorious. If anything, I feel lighter. The weight of proving myself is gone. The need to be agreeable has evaporated. Boundaries don't feel dramatic once they're in place. They just feel structural. Sometimes I wonder if I should have acted sooner. If years of small jokes and subtle disrespect could have been corrected before they hardened into contempt. Maybe. But control isn't loud when it's real. It doesn't need to perform. They thought cutting me off meant removing my access. They didn't realize I was the one keeping the roof over their heads. Now we operate on paper, on terms, on clarity. And in that quiet clarity, something inside me finally stopped negotiating for affection. The house is still theirs to live in. It just isn't theirs to own. And for the first time, neither am I.